guys, it's Jackie from Jack Gets Lost on a Book Hole, and I thought I would do my February wrap up and talk to you about the books that I read this month and talk about the books I'm still reading currently. So, the first, let me look at let me consult my lovely handy dandy bullet journal. Oh, no, my Avion was not this month. Okay, so the books I read this month. Oh, and Blue Lily Blue was not this month either. So this month's books were. Oh, well, I guess I've only read 3 books this month. Damn it. And all her books were classics. These are just the books that I finished, and I read quite a few other books, and I'll tell you about those as well. So, this month, the first book I read this month that I finished was 1984 by George Orwell. This is a dystopian, one of the original dystopians that was in existence, and this is about a dystopian world where it's kind of like the government, of course, like any dystopian, is taken over and is running things, and they basically got rid of any form of individualism. They have altered the way we speak, our language and vocabulary, what we read, what we watch, how we dress. Everything has been altered, so there's no individualism. It's kind of a very totalitarian government. That's how I feel when I read this book. And you have our main character is Winston Smith, and he is this guy who's starting to remember and recall vague memories of how things were before. And he's starting to get suspicious of the way things are done and not really liking it. And he's starting to tell that he has friends that are too smart for their own good and that will be erased from existence. And, even his wife, he didn't have much of a relationship with her. There was no intimacy or desire between the two of them. And she's, currently, for some reason, I still don't know why, but for some reason she's not in his life. And while he's starting to question things, he receives this message, this discreet message from this woman who he's seen before and he really hates. He did not have a very good opinion of her. He hated her for some. And he thought that she was part of the thought police, which are the government, which are kind of the enforcers that control things, and that if they suspect you have this individual thought, then you'll be arrested, essentially. But then she slips him a note that reveals that she loves him, and he decides to meet her secretly. And they start talking and become attracted to each other, and they both decide that they want to have sex. So they begin this explicit affair secretly in a secret location and everything. And she also suspects that things are not right in this world, and she wants to rebel, but her idea of rebellion is not full out rebel, but just to rebel in smaller ways. Let's defy the government in subtler ways that they can't arrest you for, or make you not exist anymore. So, but then, Winston shares of this man that he suspects is also one of them and has been questioning society. So they agree to meet this guy, and he's well, are you willing to do whatever you have to do, even give up each other to fulfill this, to rebel against the government and bring things back to the way they should be, the way they were back then. I enjoyed this book. I really liked it. It's my first time reading it. It's very dark, and as I was reading, I was very nervous and very anxious. And this is definitely not your daughter's dystopian. It is not, it is a lot more darker and a lot more messed up than things although the Hunger Games is pretty messed up, and Diversion's kind of messed up too. But, Divergent is the least bad. Like, Hunger Games is probably the one that compares to this, I feel like. As far as, YA is concerned. This is so dark, and it does not end happy. It ends very sad, by the way. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I thought there were, the characters were kind of bland. Most of the characters were kind of bland and boring, except for Winston. He was very interesting. But I'm wondering if George Orwell did that on purpose to show. Oh, and Winston's friend who ends up getting unexisted. He was kind of interesting too. But I feel like the author, George Orwell, might have did that on purpose to show this is how our society, this world is so bad that these people, the characters themselves are even bland. They're not very interesting. And also, what else did I say? Because I'm trying to do a new method of reviewing things, like a number system, instead of just giving a book 4 or 5 stars. I liked the ending. It was a very sad but twisted ending that I thought was really cool and interesting. It was very different than some of the YA dystopians that which is not YA obviously, but the dystopians that I've heard about. Because I've only read The Hunger Games. This will be technically this is this. Well, I read The Giver too. That was years ago, and The Cure, which is also another interesting one. So I've only read a few dystopians, and this one definitely sticks with you, especially with how it ends. It kind of refers to today, because, first of all, it's very funny how Big Brother has been turned into something like a reality TV show. And I feel like this book relates to the fact that these people are always constantly being watched by Big Brother. And I think because, with the fact that we're always on the internet and we have iPhones and all that kind of stuff where people can find us really easily, we can look up anything really easily. It makes it you kind of can draw that from this book. You can kind of connect it to this book. And especially the way things are today. There's always that fear that we're going to have, some of those things that happen in these dystopian novels. There's always that fear that could potentially happen. So I definitely think this novel is very relevant even today. There was one part that was kind of boring, because there's this famous book written by this famous rebeller Goldstein that Winston has heard about. And there's this part where he comes across the book, and it's given to him. He can read it and hold on it for a week and read it, and essentially you get the text in the novel, and it's I feel like that's it's important to the story, I think, but it's also kind of boring. I almost wanted to skip that part, but I felt like it's important enough to help you understand this government and why things are the way they are. And one of my favorite, let me see if I can find it. I also like the format of this novel. It's written, first of all, it's written for modern readers because it was written in the 20th century, late 20th century, 47. That's why it's called 1984, because for George Orwell, the future was the 80s. And it's so creepy because even the children are told to turn in their parents if they suspect their parents are breaking the law and being individuals. Their kids are willing to turn them in, are supposed to, are told to turn them in, and it's so funny. Even the guys, one of Winston's friends is is proud that his daughter caught him and exposed him for having dangerous thoughts and individual thoughts. And the book is set into 3 sections, 3 chapters, 3 big chapters. Let's see. Here's some of the things I underlined. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so here's one of my favorite quotes from the text that Winston is reading. For it is only by reconciling contradictions that power can be retained indefinitely. In no other way could the ancient cycle be broken. If human equality is to be forever averted, if high, as we have called them, are to keep their places permanently, then the prevailing mental condition must be controlled insanity. I think the idea of controlled insanity is a fascinating concept. Because, I mean, the whole time I was thinking the true villain that is revealed, he was insane. I felt like he was talking about controlling everything. And he was so proud of the way he was doing things. And I was thinking the whole time that he is insane. Like, controlled insanity. Like, not realizing you're insane. Like, you have to be insane to be considered sane or something. It's hard for me. Like I said, there are some booktubers like insert a literary pun here in a book of that would explain this so much better than I could probably. Okay, so the next one I finished is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. On Goodreads, I did give this one 4 or 5 stars. Just 4 stars. I might have given it 5 stars, but I have in here in my handy D&D bullet journal 4 stars, but I think I gave it 5 stars. This is the original novel. I mean, not the original novel, but in case you don't know, this is about a guy that decides to this Geneva scientist who decides to create life, but when he creates life, he's really disappointed with his creation. And then this creation, feeling abandoned, follows him and tracks him down, and wants revenge for being abandoned. And he insists of his creator to make him a mate, because he starts to watch humanity and try to understand it, and he's lonely and he wants a mate. This is like one of the first original science fiction novels. And it's interesting that this was born from a contest. And she was, I think, the only female author that had entered the contest. And she won against some really good, experienced male writers. I really enjoyed this novel. I mean, obviously it's really short. Some of the chapters are really long, but some of them are actually really short. So I was able to get through it really quickly. Now, I understand that it doesn't appeal to everybody. It's, especially with the writing style, it's very romantic and very just focusing on describing your feelings and individualism. But I really enjoyed the characters and the contrast between the creature and Dr. Frankenstein himself. He was a very interesting person, because it's so funny that he felt guilty and took credit for making the monster, making his creation. And he's constantly castigating himself, and blaming himself for all the bad things that happened. But he's also, blames the monster more than he blames himself. He doesn't take full credit for it. He's his own worst enemy, essentially. He is the reason that a lot of the bad things happen to him. I mean, yes, the monster killed people he cared about and everything, but he never admits that in the end of the day, he shouldn't have done this in the first place. He shouldn't have played God. And as insert literary pun said in her review of the book, he was really bad at playing God in the first place. I mean, he doesn't even name his creation. He just calls it a monster. And is constantly get out of, when he keeps running into the monster, he's like, go, I banish you. You can't hurt me. And the monster somehow always ends up getting into him, getting under his skin, and it's just, I feel like it was a really interesting classic. Very dark, and I'm glad I read it. And I guess the last time I attempted to read it was just not the best timing. Plus, I was kind of holding myself accountable to finish it because I had I buddy reading this with my friend. I buddy read it with her, and of course she's not finished because things. She's a little bit slower than I am, and she also sadly got sick, so she couldn't do any reading. It was just hard for her to do any reading, and plus she works more than I do. Her job has her working a lot more than mine, so now usually the last buddy read we did, I also finished the book before she did. And like I said, I know now for some people, of course, you'll still probably slug through it, especially with the language and everything. But I think the whole short chapters helps too. So I enjoyed that one as well. And then the last one I actually finished was Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I read this one in middle school, and I've been wanting to read it. I've been wanting to reread it because I remember really enjoying it. I definitely think this, I personally like this one a lot better than 1984, and I give this one 4 stars, or 5 stars on Goodreads. And, with my new number system, it's definitely it's higher in number than, oh wait, no, actually no, 1984 is higher. That's weird. Oh, well, I guess because the writing style, I gave it a higher number than, I don't even know if I'm doing this right. My mom, I probably should talk to my mom and help her fix this for me, because I don't know if this is good or not. But, yeah, because according to this, 1984 got more points than this one. But I think I like this one better than 1984. So this is a dystopian, but I feel like it's more like the beginning of a dystopian. Again, another world that where they're trying to control things. We have the main protagonist is Guy Montag. He's a fireman, and in this world, instead of putting out actual fires, they start them they use fire to destroy books, because as he's told by his boss, that there was a time when which it's ironic, because considering that I've kind of run into lately a situation where there's a big difference in opinions, and I've been thinking a lot about how people have such different opinions, and how contrasting people's opinions can be, and how different we are, and people are now writing more books with diversity. You have books like The Hate U Give coming out, where it deals with, the issue of the Black Lives Matter movement and how important that is. And basically, is told by his boss that the reason why they burn books is because, different people will be unhappy if there's not a book with diversity in it. If, there's not a book, if certain groups of people are not represented. So they decide to solve that solution, they'll just burn all books, just to make people happy. And they're big on this whole idea, I feel like it's a cross between 1984 and Pleasantville, where, they want this happy, perfect paradise of a life, this precious, happy life. And Guy starts questioning that after he meets this young 17-year-old girl who starts to question everything. And is why are things the way they are? And then all of a sudden she disappears. And he's like, what's happened, or why has she disappeared? And then he comes into contact with, he remembers this professor he met one day. This, I think he's a lit professor or something. And he recalls him and decides to go see him. And he wants his help and learn about what they've forgotten, what's been erased from their memories. And he forms an alliance with the professor who, they try to find a way to slowly bring books back and stop the firemen from burning their books. So, like I said, I really preferred this over 1984. It was still dark, but, it's the story I feel like is more interesting. I mean, both stories are very interesting, but I mean, especially because they really look at not just erasing individualism, but also how the theme, they explore the theme of books and how important they are and how they can really influence you, influence your way of thinking, and how it's important to have knowledge and to understand things. You learn so much from books, and you can get so much from it. Like, and now there are so many people that are writing books that are more diverse and more, teach you things. You don't just, and you can learn this stuff not just in nonfiction, you can learn it in fiction. And, throughout the book, his guy's boss is like, there's nothing in books. You can't learn anything in books. But then as Guy starts to read more books and he begins to steal books, kind of like in The Book Thief, for instance, he begins to see that his boss is wrong. You can learn so much and gain so much from reading books. Not just nonfiction, in fiction too. And there are things in there. It's just the society is so messed up and so dumbed down that people don't realize, they can't even begin to understand. They're not smart enough to understand what is in these books. What you can learn from books, what you can, they're too lazy and too scared to take the time to understand what a book is saying. And I think that, as a reader, I think this is definitely something that is worth checking out. Okay, 1 second. My dog is asking. I think my dad just came home, so my dog is asking to go out. Okay, go on. Go see. Okay, now, I've started a lot of books as well. Like, I've started The Trader's Wife, by Alison Pataki, which is historical fiction. If you know your history, you know about Benedict Arnold. He betrayed America, the American cause, the American Revolution, and sided with England. And this is about his wife, Peggy Margaret, who is the one who kind of persuaded him to betray America and join the side of back to Britain. And it's told from the perspective of her maidservant, Clarabelle. It's really good so far. I'm really liking it. And I'm glad I'm reading this one first because, according to this, it's her debut novel. And then I'm going to read Accidental Empress at some point. Let's see, what else did I read this week? I also started reading Roses earlier this month, which it's a novel it's an epic saga about this young woman, well, it starts in the present when she's an old woman, and she goes to her lawyer and has decided to give her family plantation, that what her granddaughter would inherit, to a friend of hers from, the lawyer is surprised, and basically she tells him that their plantation, what is it? I can't remember what it's called. Let's see, their cotton plantation, their family's land is a curse. There's a curse upon it. And that it's better, that her granddaughter is better off not having this land, not owning this property. So we take a trip down memory lane, we are with Mary Tobler in 1916, right before World War I, and she has just heard her father's will, and he has given her their family plantation, their cotton plantation. Not giving it to her mom, but giving it to her. So this really affects her relationship with her mother and her brother. And Mary becomes, obsessed with running this plantation. And this guy, Percy Warwick, who has been her friend since childhood, is in love with Mary and wants to marry her, but at the cost of her giving up the plantation. And she cannot bring herself to do that. And throughout this first part of the novel, he's trying to persuade her otherwise. But unfortunately that is as far as I got. I haven't, like I said, this is an epic, so this is a really long book. it's kind of like Gone with the Wind in its epicness, and the character Mary reminds me a lot of Scarlett O'Hara. And it's set in the South. It's in Texas, so I don't know if Texas considers themselves like labeled as a Southern state or not. I mean, technically, I guess it is, but I don't know if they consider themselves or not, or if it's totally separate. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm totally, exaggerating this. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and it's just another Southern state. But it takes place in Texas. Like I said, it's during World War One. And like I said, she has a very complicated relationship with her mother, and she has a complicated relationship with her brother. And then after her brother and his friends, Percy and another friends of theirs who was also in love with Mary, come back from war, of course there's the after effects of war and how it can really traumatize you, and there's physical consequences and there's mental consequences to war. And her brother decides to become a communist and leave and go to France to marry this French woman. And then, so basically it's just Mary and her mom, and at one point, and her mom kills herself. Her mom commits suicide right around the time it seems like she's changing and accepting the fact that her daughter owns the plantation and is trying to restore their relationship. But it turns out it was all BS, and the mom commits suicide in the process. And that's where I am right now in the book. I know eventually, we'll get to the next part where we'll learn about her granddaughter, the next generation. We'll learn more about that family and everything. And it's really good. I'm really liking it. I love the character of Mary. Sometimes I want to slap her, but other times I see her point of view, and other times I just really can't stand Percy Warwick. But it's like Gone with the Wind. It has the same feelings where you're fascinated by these characters at the same time. There are times when you just want to punch them and slap them in the face, but then there are other times you see their point of view. You understand their perspective on the situation. But it's really good. I really like these epics. I mean, I'm not a big fan of romance, but I do like romance when it's in my story. When it's in the story. Like, when I write my own novel, I'm definitely going to put romance in there. Because I like love stories. I'm just not someone who will will go to the romance section of the bookstore or of the library and get a romance. But yeah, so those are the books I'm currently reading right now. One more, and that is, I haven't gotten very far in this one, but this is the third book in the trilogy, in the Fallen Kingdom series, Gathering Darkness. I can't really tell you much about it, because one, I haven't gotten any far, and two, I can't tell you anything about, even if I did get a little bit farther than where I am, which is chapter 4, I could risk spoiling you. So it wouldn't matter either way. But yeah, I guess I give you, so it's kind of like, it's compared to a Song of Ice and Fire series for YA readers. It's, about these three feuding kingdoms. It's multiple perspective. It's, the kingdoms all have been taken over by this one guy, this one king, and his son he's arranged his son to be betrothed to the princess of the original kingdom that he took over. And, there's this whole thing about magic, and people are starting to don't believe in it anymore, and they're trying to get it back, and this king believes it's out there, and he believes his foster daughter has magic, and he wants to use her to take over the kingdom. And the other kingdom he took over, the people from that kingdom are leading a rebellion against the king, led by this one character of Jonas, who's one of the perspectives we get. Because the first book started with his brother getting killed by the guy who was going to marry Cleo, her original betrothed. And he automatically assumes that Cleo is guilty by dissociation because she didn't do anything. She didn't stand up for the guy's brother, and he assumed that she was just like everybody else in her kingdom. So and we also get the perspective of the king who took everything over, and we get the perspective of his son, Magnus, the one who's engaged to Cleo. And then, so that's basically summing it up. It's a bad summary, of course, but yeah, this is the third book. A lot has happened in the first two books. I really like it. I know a lot of people don't like the first book who read the series, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the second book, and and I'm sure I'll enjoy this third book. I mean, the first few chapters I liked. They were interesting. Not much happened, but still, So those are the books I currently started but not finished, and I will probably bring those with me when I go to stay with my grandma for 12 days. But now I'm at the point where I just got 5 new books, and I have the urge to read those as well. So I might bring a bigger bag than the usual backpack so that I can fit a lot more books. And to be fair, I am staying with, like I said, I'm staying with her for almost more than a week, almost 2 weeks. So that's my excuse. So yeah, that's what I read in February. And those are the books I started, and then those were the books I read that I actually finished. So what have you read this month? Do you have any books that you wanted to finish that you didn't finish? What books have you finished? So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you for listening. Bye.